Hello everyone and welcome back to Deck Tech Tuesday. In this series, I choose a random deck and try to explain the inner workings of said build. This week we're going into Pauper and we're playing a blue-red infinite combo deck that I personally like to call Bounce House. Now, this is a Banishing Knack / Retraction Helix deck, and there are infinite combo decks based around those cards beforehand, more or less so in like the modern format, and there was a standard deck that used Mana Dorks and Retraction Helix to mill your opponent out. Well, in this deck, it equates to infinite damage instead of milling or anything else like that. So first we're going to look at the actual win cons of the deck, and we'll first start with a full playset of Impact Tremors and 2 of Reckless Fireweaver. So both of these cards are pretty similar in terms of that they have an Enters the Battlefield ability where it deals 1 damage, and the difference between Reckless Fireweaver and Impact Tremors is that Reckless Fireweaver is for artifacts whereas Impact Tremor is for creatures, but the cards that we'll be utilizing in this deck are artifact creatures, so it triggers off of both of them, and once we can get an infinite loop started, either one of these cards will kill our opponent. And the reason why I'm playing more Impact Tremors than I am Reckless Fireweaver is because Impact Tremors isn't as susceptible to removal as a Reckless Fireweaver would, right? We're about to get our combo online, and then our opponent Doom Blades the Reckless Fireweaver that we have online, and then it's just a sad day for us. Whereas if we have an Impact Tremors in game 1 for say, we can just kill our opponent right there, bar if they don't have any enchantment removal. For the rest of the combo pieces, we're playing a 3 of each, and for each combo piece there's 2 different versions of it. Like for example, Ornithopter and Phyrexian Walker. Both of these cards are 0 cost, they don't really do anything other than just be bodies on the board, and they're both artifacts and creatures to trigger Impact Tremors and Reckless Fireweaver, and the only reason why they're in the deck is because these are the key pieces to the combo. These cards are the whole reason why we're able to get the combo online, is because they're 0 drops. And the reason why we're playing 3 of each as opposed to 4 is because this combo itself is a 4-card combo. Actually, it's not like a 2-card combo like Splinter Twin and Deceiver Exarch or anything like that. It's kind of actually a 4-card combo. So if we just jam a 4 of each like combo piece, and there's 2 of each separate combo piece, that would be almost the entire deck itself besides lands, and that would just like be way too clunky, and we need some like draw spells and some removal and like ways to interact with other opponents' decks, so that way we just don't get completely blown out. So that's why we're playing 3 of each copy as opposed to 4. Now for our next combo piece, we're playing a 3 of Battered Golem and a 3 of Nettle Drone. Now these cards are pretty much the same, you know, Nettle Drone costs red mana as opposed to the Golem being colorless, but they both read the same, as in whenever we cast a colorless or artifact spell, we get to untap them. So these guys pretty much play the exact same role, kind of like how Impact Tremors and Reckless Fireweaver both play the same role, and Phyrexian Walker and Ornithopter both play the same role, as in these guys are pretty much our untapped source, so that way we can slam down our next combo piece onto it and we can get our combo online in 1 single turn. But Nettle Drone does have that added benefit of being able to shoot our opponent if, you know, we need to do it for whatever reason. And for our last combo piece, we have a 3 of Banishing Knack and 3 of Retraction Helix. Now this is the final piece of the combo, and what we want to do with this card is we want to put it on a Nettle Drone or a Golem, so that way until end of turn they have the ability where they can tap to bounce an Ornithopter or Phyrexian Walker back to your hand. Then you can recast it and untap that said creature that you tapped beforehand, and you'll also get a trigger off of like Reckless Fireweaver or Impact Tremors or anything like that. And that's the loop. Essentially, you repeat this ad nauseum until your opponent's dead or until they concede, or whichever comes first. Now we do have a way of protecting this combo, and that's a 2 of Dispel. So we pretty much just hold this card on as long as we possibly can until we can get our combo online, and then we leave a single blue mana up in case our opponent has like Naturalize or Doomblade or anything like that. This card will pretty much help save us when we're about to combo off. So whenever we're playing a combo deck like this in a format like Pauper, where we just have access to such a wide plethora of ways to like find combo pieces, I found that the best way in blue and red is obviously draw spells. So we're first starting off with a pair of Faithless Looting. Now this card, you pay a mana, you draw 2, discard 2. Simple enough, flashback, draw 2, discard 2. This pretty much helps us find our combo as fast as we can. We ideally want to use this to find a 0 drop, so that way we can just get the combo online that turn. So that's why I'm playing a 2 of as opposed to a playset in this deck. Now moving on to the actual good draw spells in the deck, we begin with a 4 of Ponder. So Ponder, you cast it, you get to look at the top 3, choose a card or shuffle and draw a card. So this card pretty much is another way to help us find our combo. This card is much better in like a Delver strategy, so you can help set up your Delver secrets or something like that. But this card also helps us find our missing combo piece if we need it, and even if we can't, we still get a shuffle out of it in hopes of trying to find another combo piece. And for our last draw spell, we have a playset of Preordain. So Preordain, you cast, scry 2, and draw a card. So this card is kind of the same as Serum Visions, except it's the polar opposite, whereas it's like draw a card then scry 2. But for this, it also helps us find our combo pieces or anything like that. The scry helps us set up so that way in like the turn afterwards, we can top deck our last combo piece and go off. This card is pretty much the creme de la creme of draw spells. I personally find it's one of the better draw spells in the game, save for like Brainstorm or Ancestral Recall or anything like that. And for the last spells in the main board, we do have some removal in the form of 3 Lightning Bolt and 1 Flame Slash. So these cards pretty much play the exact same role, and this is like creature removal in terms of like getting rid of aggressive threats that can kill us before we can get our combo off, because we don't need to get any of our creatures through for combat damage to kill our opponent. We just need to get a certain board state online in order to get us to win. So Impact Tremors, or not Impact Tremors, Lightning Bolt and Flame Slash help us stabilize on the board and help get rid of threats that we wouldn't be able to handle otherwise. For the lands in the deck, it's pretty easy. We're only running 9 islands and 6 mountains, and we are running more blue sources than red sources because there's clearly more blue cards than there are red, because the red is pretty much only in there for select combo pieces and removal, and that's pretty much it. Everything else in the deck can just run off of blue mana, so we kind of want to prioritize off using blue mana more than anything else. That being said, we're also playing a 2 of Izzet Boilerworks and 3 of Swiftwater Cliffs. Now personally, I'm a little uncomfortable with playing the Ravnica Karoo lands in tandem with the Khan's tapped gain life lands, but whatever, you bounce it. Like, say you bounce your Khan's land with Izzet Boilerworks and then you replay it, gain another life, whatever. Even though it's a bit slow for my taste personally, I can understand why people would play it, and it is a true tried and tested strategy, so can't really knock it. Moving on to the sideboard, we take a look at more counter magic to help bring in against game 2 and 3, where they may be more hateful towards our combo strategies. So we just bring in more counter spells to help protect our combo, so that way we can go off. And we begin by finishing off our playset of Dispel, and we also take a look at 2 of Negate. And both of these cards are, I want to say they're the same, but they're really not, because Negate does cost 1 more and it can hit a wider angle of cards, whereas opposed to Dispel where it can only hit instants. So Negate can hit any sorceries that may like wipe us out of the game or anything like that. And to round out the counter spells in the sideboard, we have a playset of Counterspell. Now this card you could make an argument to put in the main deck if you want to play it over like Dispel or something like that, but I feel like this deck is kind of mana intensive, or not mana intensive, it's just the kind of deck where you kind of want to go off as fast as possible. You want this combo to go off by like turn 5 or 6 before your opponent has like any way of dealing with you, and that's why like I prioritize Dispel over Counterspell, just because it costs 1 mana less. But it's totally reasonable if you want to play Counterspell in the main board over it, but regardless, I would still suggest playing with Dispel in the deck as well. Now looking into the other cards in the deck that we bring in against other certain matchups, we begin with a pair of Aura Flux. Now this card strictly comes in against like the Bogles matchups, because that is one of the hardest matchups for us to deal with, just because they're just non-interactive to begin with. Our Flame Slashes and Lightning Bolts are pretty much dead cards against them, so we need something to bring in against them, and that's where Aura Flux comes in, because it taxes the opponent for playing a bunch of enchantments, and it gets to the point where they can't pay for all of them, so that 11/11 lifelink trampler or whatever is cut down to a much more manageable size. For our next card, we run a 3 of Smash to Smithereens, and this card we bring in against the Affinity matchup, or like Kuldotha Rebirth, or any other type of strategy that focuses around artifacts. And the fact that this does dome our opponent for 3 is just icing on the cake. And while you could play something like, oh god, I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Smite. It's like 1 mana, destroy target artifact. You do get the added benefit of damage, so that's why you'd want to play Smash to Smithereens over like anything else, in my opinion, personally. And for the last card in the deck, we run a 2 of Tormod's Crypt, and we bring this card in against like certain graveyard strategies like Tortured Existence, or any delve strategies that focus around Gurmag Angler, so that way we can just play this and then wipe out our opponent's graveyard, and so that way they can't, like, say they're playing blue-black delver or anything like that. That slows them down considerably. And not only that, but this is also a 0 mana artifact that works with Reckless Fireweaver. So we bring this in game 2 against like a deck where Tormod's Crypt is good, where Tormod's Crypt is also an additional combo piece, so we can bounce it with like Retraction Helix or whatever, because they do say permanent, so we can bounce that Tormod's Crypt back to our hand and then recast it, get a trigger off of Reckless Fireweaver, and just win that way. And that's the deck tech for all of you this week. What did you think about this deck? It's something that I've been tinkering around with for a while now, for like since October or something like that, and I'm really proud of this now. Banishing Knack decks, like I said before, they're not the most original, but in terms of how I've built this deck, I feel like it's original now. That is to say, Wedge from the Mana Source did beat me to this. He uploaded like a modern version of this deck, and while the strategies are similar, I feel like this deck is different enough from his where mine doesn't feel like a complete and total ripoff. Anyways, let me know in the comments what you think of this deck. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz or whatever. Anyways, I'm Tasty Snackies. You all have been wonderful, and I'll catch you on the flip side.